Alright guys, so this is going to be part one of a two-part video. We're going to be working on the diffuser. And so this part one, we're going to be painting the whole bottom diffuser part, starting at that lip where the stripe ends. And we're going to end up covering the muffler and all that and just paint off that whole bottom. So when we actually do end up putting the actual diffuser, the fins and everything, the area around it will be black. So we're going to be using the Superwrap. The reason I go for Superwrap is because it actually looks a lot better than plasti. A lot of you probably already know plasti leaves like a weird texture, and it just doesn't look like actual paint, whereas Superwrap looks like actual paint. And then I can give you an example. I actually have Superwrap on the front on the logo, and you can see what I mean. So as you can see here on the front, this was actually Superwrap, and it gives a nice glossy finish, so it looks like actual paint. And there's no like ugly texture that plastic wrap usually has, like a bunch of bumps. Of course, it's not like 100% like a mirror finish, but you can see it more on camera. But in person, it looks a lot just like paint, you know. So just kind of a quick walk around. See if I could zoom out a bit. Oh, one more thing for the Superwrap, actually, we're gonna be using this clear coat on top. It's gonna be like a gloss finish. So once you're finished with all your layers, you put it on, and it gives it that extra glossy look that it has at the front. Alright, so first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and start by masking off the bottom. I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and then we'll get back to the video. Okay, so what I like to do is I like to use masking tape to trace the area that I'm gonna be working on. Just remember, the masking part is the most important part. The better your masking tape, the better your end result's gonna be. So I cover I pretty much trace an outline, cover the lights, don't forget to cover the lights, and once that's done, then I'm gonna go ahead and put plastic around the mufflers on both sides, and then start plastic probably from up here. I don't have to follow the exact line because I already did that with the tape. So just put plastic to cover the rest of the car for overspray. Don't make the mistake I've once made and not cover the rest of the car, because there is overspray. Even though you can't see it, once you remove all the tape and stuff, you'll definitely see and feel it on your paint. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cover it with the plastic now, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so don't mind that sound in the background. We're just shaking the paint can. So this is what I meant by masking it off. I kind of over mask, but I'd rather not worry about the overspray later. Once you do that, you're gonna want to make sure, I don't know if I mentioned this already, make sure your area is clean that you're gonna do. Now that it's clean, we're gonna do the first layer, and then we'll come back. But the way Superwrap works is you do your first layer. It's not gonna be completely black, but then you have to wait 10 to 15 minutes between coats. So you do that, you wait, then the next layer and the next layer. And I believe the can says like 5 to 8 coats. I don't remember. But read that, and you want to follow that, because that's what gets you that nice glossy finish. Okay, so we'll do the first layer, and then we'll come back. While spraying, you're not going to want to mist it on. You want to make sure you're not too far from the car, because if you mist it, it's going to leave a very ugly texture. So what I like to do is I like to get as close as I can without dripping, which is usually like about 5-6 inches away. That way you can do a thick enough layer to where it gives you good coverage, but it doesn't drip. If you go too far, you're gonna mist it, and it's just you're gonna have a terrible time with it. Another thing, you're gonna want to overlap each spray, so that way it gives you one consistent look. If you don't overlap it, then you get kind of those streaks where you can tell it's been painted from a can. So to avoid getting those ugly streaks that some of you have probably seen it before if you've done your research on using these cans like aerosols to spray your car. To avoid that, the easiest thing to do is you want to apply it thick enough to where it looks wet, and you want to overlap so that it gives you that one consistent color when it dries. Other than that, you kind of just want to make sure you get the whole area. Like I said, don't mist it on, and just your first layer also, it's not going to give you a complete coverage. You're going to be able to see through the paint, as I'll show in the next clip. So don't worry about that. Just overlap it and just do your thing. It should be fine. Okay, so here's the first coat done. As you can see, it's pretty dark, but you can still sort of see the color of the car. I don't know how well the camera picks that up, but from my perspective you can. From my experience doing this, what I've learned is you want to get it as dark as possible without letting it run. So go to the point where you think it's about to run, where it's nice and wet, and then stop there, and then let it dry and go to your next coat. So yeah, the thicker the coat that I've seen that you could put on, from my experience, the smoother and more paint like the finish is. When you go really light mist, you get a weird texture, a lot like plasti dip. You get kind of like that weird texture. It's not as bad on this as it is on plasti dip, but you still get it even with regular paint if you don't do it correctly. So you want to go as dark as possible without letting it run. Now we have to wait 10 to 15 minutes, and we're gonna do 9 wet coats and then 2 coats of the gloss to finish it off. Okay, so this is the first one. We're gonna have to wait about 12 more minutes now, and then we'll hop on the second one. So I went ahead and grabbed the lamp to show what I mean. This is the first layer. As you can see through the paint. The first layer is never gonna 100% cover your original paint. So if we went any heavier than that, it would start to drip. On the bottom as well, that's actually pretty well covered, but you can still see it. It's just the lighting that we can't 100% show you, but that's what I mean. The entire bottom is like that. You can somewhat see it. Let me move this lamp. You can somewhat see through. That first layer is always going to be like that, so don't worry about that. That's what the next layers are for. I just did the third layer, and I noticed that there was some drips right here. You can kind of see them in the image. It's kind of hard to see because it's black, but if you ever get the running paint, don't try to touch it and fix it. What I've noticed is on the next coat, if you can get close enough with the can, the pressure of the paint will actually even that out. So as long as it's not your final coat, you should be fine. Don't keep trying to spray that to fix it. On the next coat, I'm just gonna hold the can just a little closer, and the pressure will even out that surface, and then I'll just leave it. I won't keep adding to that spot just for that next coat, and I'll continue on. So that's what I find that works for me. So yeah, pretty much it. This is 4 coats in. What was it, 4 coats? 4 coats in. We're waiting on the 12-minute mark. It's 10 to 15. I just like to hit that middle mark. I did 12 minutes. So let me show you what it looks like. So yeah, 4 coats in. As you can see, it's pretty black now. You can't really see it. You can't see the paint at all under it anymore. Now it's just gonna be making it thick enough in case you ever decide you do want to peel it off. Makes it easy to peel off and remove. Unlike, I don't know if you've ever dealt with like people that plasti dip stuff and you try to remove it and it just keeps breaking apart. That's just because they didn't do enough layers. Like, yeah, it covers it, but the thickness is for a reason. So you want to do enough layers because it keeps it looking glossy longer and it's easier to remove. Okay, so yeah, 4 layers down, 3 to go. Okay, so I'm now 7 layers in, and as you can see, like I said, the spray evened out a lot of that drippage. So the next layer will actually do that as well. Of course, you want to avoid dripping, but the spray helps even it out. This is 7 layers in, so I'm gonna back up so you can see what I mean. So I need 1 more layer, and then I'm gonna need 2 layers of the high gloss coat, and I'll show you what that is. So 2 layers of the high gloss coat. It's applied the same exact way. It's kind of basically like your clear coat for your Superwrap. Same thing as you would, very similar to what you would just regular paint. Like, it has a clear coat, but this is just considered a top high gloss coat. But yeah, this is what it looks like right now. I'm waiting my last 10 minutes before I do my last layer, and then I can apply the high gloss. Then I'll go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. Okay, so that was the last coat of the black. Now we're waiting the 15 minutes so we could do the last 2 coats of the gloss. But I'm gonna go ahead and take this time and take advantage. I'm gonna go ahead and take advantage of this time to explain that pretty much as soon as you're done with that gloss coat, you're gonna want to remove all of the plastic around the edges, because when the paint is still wet, it's easy to remove it. But if you wait until it's dry, then it starts to try to lift up the edges. And I tell you this from experience. I've done this several times in several different projects. that's the easiest way to do it. Wait, as soon as you're done, don't wait, just remove it. If you want, you can wait on the lights if you don't want to touch that on accident, because it's not actually touching the paint of the car, so you can wait on that. And if you just want to be really cautious, run a blade or anything thin around the edges to make sure it's completely removed from the bumper. But for sure, anything that's touching the edges of the paint, because that part like comes in and touches the edge of the car, you want to remove immediately as soon as you're done. So we'll probably get back after the plastic is done, because all it needs is the clear coat, which I probably won't record. I'll just go ahead and do it and then remove it and show you what it looks like, and then I'll probably come back and show you the next day as well, so you can see the finished product. Okay, so it's the next day. This is the finished product. So pretty much if you follow the steps that I gave you, you should have a similar result. It looks pretty good. I don't know how well the camera's picking up the difference between the black and the dark gray, but it looks good in person, man. It looks great. The only part that's kind of hard is removing the tape. It kind of wants to lift off the paint sometimes, but as long as you do it while it's wet, you should be okay. Alright guys, so subscribe. We have a lot more projects coming up. We're actually going to be removing the wrap from this car right here, and it's going to be going through an entire transformation. It's going to be removed. We're going to be painting it. A bunch of stuff coming up. We have more ideas for this. There's part 2 for the diffuser. We still need to do the fins and everything. So if you enjoyed, subscribe, and see you guys later.